Hello and welcome. My name is Olga Chwa, and I'll be your guide this afternoon, this evening, for a bit of settling, followed with a movement practice. I'm so delighted to gather with you this cold day, this cold evening, as we welcome the season in its fullness. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to support this channel. How do I feel in this moment? I'm following with the question, what do I need? What does this body need? What do you need from this practice today? What is it that would be most nourishing, most welcome? What do I need? Asking your whole body based on what you feel, based on the first piece of information, the body's experience here and now, and what could make it better. Is it rest? Perhaps this whole class will be horizontal for you, and that's a welcome option to do your practice lying down with minimal movements that might be gentle and kind towards yourself. Or you might need something dynamic. You might feel the need to challenge and to push yourself, and that's a choice, knowing that you are making those choices for yourselves based on my suggestions here as we move through the joints in the body, and we'll move into the spine and all the things that we do in my years of practice that I find most useful, most helpful. But depending on what you feel here and what you've discovered in your needs, you might craft an intention, you might craft a word or two to guide your experience, to keep you in check on your trajectory. And we'll put some joints together. We've been doing isolated joints for some time, some weeks, and we can bring some of those things together today. So I invite you to just become aware of the furthest joints from the center of the body. So taking the awareness to the fingertips and to the toes. And wherever you are, if you're lying down, you might adjust that position, find the breadth and the width of it. If you are sitting up, you might extend the legs so that the toes are easily accessible. And finding a place where the hands and the feet are comfortable and are available, beginning to fold and open those furthest joints, those collections of knuckles in the toes and in the fingers. Open toes, open fingers, folded toes, folded fingers. I'm doing at least 3 or 4 of these repetitions, maybe more if it feels good. And as you let the knuckles slow down, you can move that into the wrists and the ankles. Some choices become available in the positions of the hands. Get a better light. So if you are exploring, you might try different orientations for the arms, for the hands, as you combine hand and ankle movements forward and back. And progress those into rotations, progress those into around and around movements. If it feels good to challenge yourself this way for all 4 of the joints and the extremities, enjoy that. If it feels like too much, if you have a situation, maybe you're nurturing a specific one joint, take it apart, slow it down, make it piece by piece. Making this your own. From the circles, we go into more complicated movements, infinity symbols, figure 8s. And that might get all sorts of brain intensive to combine in the legs and the hands. And changing that direction, remembering that whatever movement you're making, it's got a backwardness to it. It's got a reversal to play with, to explore. So ankles and wrists for this moment. Seeing what else the feet and the hands might need. We've been combining movements, toes and ankles together. Maybe that's something you quite enjoy and would like to bring into the practice. And the same with the hands. We can practice wrists and fingers combining, exploring what else is available, what else is possible. As the movement is in some ways isolated and in some ways extensive, right? All the furthest bits away from the spine are doing the movements and then coming into stillness, coming into rest. Knees might be taken one at a time. Elbows might be taken one at a time. We've got straight legs and straight arms as one option, and folded legs and folded arms as another option. I'm demonstrating opposite arm and leg, in which one knee comes to my chest and the opposite hand folds to the shoulder from a sitting position. Lying down can be modified, and the possibility of elbows and knees together might be maybe more steady on the floor, maybe a little more accessible with the support of the floor. At the same time, it's more of a demand on the core strength than from the sitting position. Quite demanding core strengthening option. Take it gently, take it one at a time as needed, or both together, knees and shoulders. I'm sorry, elbows. Rotations could get especially heady, so taking a moment to decide if you want to play this game and rotate a knee and an elbow at the same time. Wouldn't that be fancy? And you might isolate those movements. You might quite enjoy to explore the rotations available in the knee. You might even slow that down and start with the dashes we've been doing in past weeks to prepare the body to engage in some of the ligaments and tendons that you might feel that really do you good. Knees work so hard in our lives, right? Every step we take, every coming up and out of a chair and into the chair, the knees are there. Their knees are there for our driving. So as you're exploring knees, as you're exploring elbows, you might divide them up. You might take them one at a time. We've got rotations. Those have two directions, a clockwise and a counterclockwise. However, you're combining them. Go two directions. And then if you are an overachiever, and like the challenge, you might explore the possibility of an infinity or a figure eight to engage in these more subtle, more demanding parts. And we're going to slow this down. So there's no rush, there's no hurry. You might do one part at a time individually. You might rest and feel through these parts. This might be an opportunity to hang out with the elbows and the knees, to say hello to them and their unique role in our bodies and how they're there to move us forward, how they're there to bring the hands to the heart without the elbows. Where would hugging be? And self-care, the ability to touch our own bodies with our hands, thanks to the flexibility of the arms. Taking a little breath there, a little moment. Feeling what you've done, what you're doing, the elbows and the knees. And the closer we get to the core, you might be noticing that more challenging it is to really move all the parts together. And in some ways, the easiest way to do that is to flip the body over. So we'll come back to some of the traditional joint movements after you come onto the hands and knees, so that the hips and the shoulders are part of this practice for your classic cat pose. The cat and cow pose. Exhale, forward bend, inhale, backward bend, beginning to warm the body up. And that's the hip movement. A little bit of the shoulder movement, right? The shoulders are stabilizing, but you feel the opening there. As the armpits open, that's a flexion in the shoulder. And as the armpits come close more towards each other, that's an extension. Limited range of movement. It's not your full range of movement, but notice what's happening in the shoulders and in the hips. And then adding the suppleness of the elbows to make organic movements. Drawing a circle as if your belly button had a laser pointer. Sort of my drawstring had some paint on it now. I'm saying the movement there of the circle, like a hula hoop. Try it in one direction, try it in the other. Let the elbows be soft if that feels good, to bring these organic and exploratory movements. Shoulders and hips, what sort of figure eights, what sort of infinity symbols can you discover here in this familiar practice? Warming up the spine, preparing the spine. If you're up for the balance, reaching one leg back and the opposite arm forward, that might be the challenge, the engagement for your body. You might even just lift one leg to then play with movement, if that's something that's calling your attention, to draw circles with that leg. So we're bringing back the hip movements, we're bringing back the rotations clockwise and counterclockwise. Maybe one leg at a time. If you're feeling that combination of joints, giving the arm and the leg space to do that. Depending on your ambition and these intentions that you set right at the beginning, let your needs dictate the intensity. Checking in with that question, how do I feel? What do I need? What am I bringing? The quality of the practice, so it's nourishing to me. So I'm doing the things that actually are productive and helpful to my body. Shoulders and hips. And rest as needed. You know this base pose. You might need to hang out here for a moment. Lots of ways to access more specifically into the shoulders and into the hips. As a review, and for what you might need today, if your shoulders are saying, oh, I need more, take a forward step with the hands so that you're leaning in a forward opening. The armpits are more open and the tail stays straight up. As the elbows come towards the floor, the forehead. To make it more intense, actually lifting the face, bringing the chest towards the floor to intensify it. That's an option. Forehead on the floor is a good first place, a first goal, and intensifying that if the body requests it. Way to work a little bit more with teres muscles back here, with fibers of deltoid. And for the hips, you might bring the hands back under the shoulders, keeping that stacking, keeping that softness in the elbows. And as the foot reaches back, it's leveling or even dropping through the pelvis to get access to the sacroiliac joint. It's that part where the pelvis meets that back pyramid-like shape, the sacrum. So reaching the leg back, and you might reach with your toes, you might reach with the heel. You're noticing what works for your body, and then dropping that, moving that towards the floor. Here's where this practice can get into some subtlety and some nuance, because we have the option to rotate and to twist the leg. If you're reaching, whichever leg you're reaching back, notice you can do kind of a windshield wiper. These great big bus windshield wipers that are mounted at the top of the windshield there. Depending on what you're feeling, depending on what information your leg is giving you, where does it feel tight, where does it feel stuck, you might try those different angles. And bringing the foot with the outside edge, with the little toe edge to the floor, or from the inside edge, the big side edge, big toe edge to the floor. And whatever you do on one side, check it out on the other. Seeing how that feels, what you're doing. You might be doing your own thing. I've got some suggestions here, some ideas on how to access parts and details of the hip sockets there. Might not find in some of the other traditional venues. So we're focused on hips and shoulders for another few moments, another few breaths. And if you've done anything intense, if you've done anything that feels really stretchy, really demanding, soothe it out. Do something to make nice, to bring some good fresh blood flow. That might mean resting. And we'll continue with shoulders and with neck as you let your lower body rest. If you're comfortable in a kneeling position, if this is suitable for your knees, for your hips, great. You might choose that option. If there's any sort of support, including a little space between the shins and the thighs to help you be comfortable, this is the moment to organize yourself. I'll be demonstrating in this position, but any sitting position is welcome. If you like to sit with the legs crossed, if you like to keep the legs open, if you want to get back on your back, we'll be doing our shoulder things and our neck movements. So however you need to organize yourself to then focus on the shoulders. And as we warm them up from the cat pose, bringing the fingertips to the shoulders when you're ready for a little forward and back. Getting more precisely into the shoulders. Might try that at different orientations, different angles, right? The elbows real low, kind of halfway up and as high as they go. What's possible in this butterfly exploration? Different heights, different levels. What does it even feel like? What's it doing? And do you want to bring your spine into it? Do you want to make this include the hips and some of those middle bones of the back? Seeing what's working for you there. What level is that stretch available? It might be somewhere unexpected, maybe lower. Tends to get the upper shoulders where we tend to hold the tension up there. The higher ones you might feel lower in the body, right? That's going to open and stretch through the waist there. As you've had enough of those come into a familiar circle, you might divide that out. You might go one at a time. One way and the other way. You might do both together, again, knowing what you know and what you enjoy. And from the circles in two directions, we make that complicated. We invite a figure eight, an infinity. And the thing with a direction has an opposite direction. So finding that reverse. As you bring in all the squiggles and the wiggles, the creative movements to the shoulders. Thank you, shoulders. What do the shoulders need today? How do they feel? Can you breathe in a way that brings the breath into the collarbones, into the edges of the shoulders? And we'll keep going. If you've got a place where it's possible to link the arms in front, give them a little together in the front stretch. And you might even bring an upper arm across the upper chest, scooping it with the opposite arm, scooping it with the opposite shoulder, if that feels good. That might be your thing for a few breaths for a moment on the ground, laying down. This one's available. And you might even be one of these folks that can twist your arms up into an eagle arm position. And this one might take a little moment. This might slow you down. You might be at whatever stage you are bringing the arms together. That might be backs towards each other. That might be hanging onto a thumb. A couple different ways to soften into this. And the back of the body goes down. The backs of the shoulder blade, the back of the neck opens up, and slowly, if you want more intensity, if you want to make this more powerful, opening at the elbows. So taking the hands away from the face. That's one direction of adjustment. And the other direction is to move, keeping the back down, moving the elbows up, shoulder blades down, elbows and upper arms move up. That's a way to get into some intense stretches. You're going to feel it probably on the side that the higher elbow is in, the upper elbow. And so finding that at your pace, at your intensity, changing sides at least once, maybe several times, low through the back, low through the shoulder blades, open at the elbows, the hands move away from the face, and slowly the elbows can lift upward. These are two planes of intensity, of modulation. Hands forward and back, elbows up and down. Crank it into the intensity that feels good in your body, that gives your shoulders what they need. And hopefully you've been working in that straight up and down verticality, and you might find somewhere comfortable, not quite 100%, somewhere 60, 70% to also bring that into a little peekaboo action, little moving that to the side. So if you're not quite twisted up, if you're doing something with just the upper arm, same thing, letting that become a twist. So it's not just hanging out there, but your whole body can shift a little bit to make that feel longer, more accessible. After you do some of these, some folks like to go back to the dynamic stuff to work that out, to make nice, give yourself that self massage. And if you have the space and the possibility to reach behind you, that'll be the next invitation here, is to reach the hands behind. That might be plenty of a workout for some of you. Seeing if they're available to lift. Oh, I'll turn the other way so we've got the contrast there. A little more visible there. I'll lift them up. Option one. And if it seems impossible, be very gentle with yourself. But if you've got the flexibility to move the back of that one hand to the opposite hip. So you're reaching hand to the opposite, back of the hand to the opposite hip, across the back, seeing if that's available for the next possible step. So step one is reaching, just finding that up and the down. Step two is finding that hand to the side. And that might be plenty of a shoulder practice for you. And then step three in this exercise is bringing the elbows towards each other. So being gentle with the wrist, being gentle with the shoulder. Notice that in your chest, through the breastbone, through the front of the body. Seeing if you can close the book. That are the arms behind the body. These are the shoulder sequences. You might feel those in the wrists. You might feel those a little bit through the upper arms on the way to the elbows. So as you complete these movements, noticing what else soothes your body, what else nourishes your body. As we focus for the next minute or so, probably 2 or maybe 3 minutes on neck. Get the neck into focus. Bring that right in here. As you finalize the movements with the shoulders, find your comfortable place. That might be seated. You might be ready for a change of position. Checking in with that body's comfort. Again, that being the most important part of the practice here, is to remain available, comfortable, home in the body. For slow motion, yes, to work the range of motion of the head and face, looking down, looking up, and looking up, looking down. Forward and back. From the slow motion, yes, to the side bending, up and over like a rainbow, like a horseshoe. And in the up and over, there might be some other movements in that side bend, some organic, exploratory wiggle, squiggle. Where does the neck need stretched? Where does the neck feel ready to receive, to open, to expand? And looking up, looking down, up and over a few times. And then from the center, from the upright position into the twist, the slow motion no. Taking comfort in boundaries that you are able to set, things that we do have control over. I've been learning about unsubscribing from physical mail to get off of some of the physical junk mail lists. That's a great boundary for me to set. No more of some of those random pieces of mail. And same thing in the edge of the twist as the head arrives to its stopping point, its natural range of motion. Is there something in that movement? Is there a oh yeah inside of that twist? Or maybe some side to side movement, a little, I don't know. At the edge or almost edge of that twist, maybe not as deeply as the full range, but a few inches out. Letting the head and the nose and the chin be your guides as you give yourself the organic movements, the exploratory movements. Left, right, right, left. To arrive into the center, to arrive, to observe, to notice, and to put it all together with a rotation. We've got our movement with direction clockwise. If that's how you happen to begin, you'll go 3 or 4 times and you'll switch. And if you began counterclockwise, no worries, you'll catch the clockwise. Coming home, and then you switch. Rotating one direction, rotating in the opposite direction. And you arrive at the center. For a pause, you arrive at the center for a moment of noticing. We've done so much, a little bit of a different order. We consolidated some things. Notice how you're feeling. What are the effects from all these movements? We put the spine in the middle and then looped back around to the shoulders and neck. So you might be eager to keep moving from the cat pose to some of the bigger animals that we practice here. That might be where you are, from a cat to a dog, if that's where your body's feeling it. And there might be something in the cats that you're still really longing and feeling the need to do. Some of you have a cobra practice, a striking cobra practice, or hanging out in a cobra practice. This might be some of the options. So there might be some snakes in the mix. There might be some dogs in the mix. If you're feeling that forward bend, stretching the backs of the legs. There might be some taking steps forward even, and lunging, doing some crescent moons, if that's what your body and your joints are requesting of you. So I've given you some options. I've given you some ideas of where to take yourself, where to put your body, noticing what might feel good. The forward bend, that is the downward dog, that's going to stretch the backs of the legs. You can engage through the spine to make your body long and lengthened in a way that the cobra lengthens the front of the body, right? So if you've been in a forward bend, and you might combine the two, right? Some people do a bit of a sun salutation sequence with both the dog and the cobra. And if you're noticing what's happening, sometimes these lungy parts are part of a sun salutation. And you might not do all of these shapes. You might do 1 or 2 and hang out and breathe. You might come back to rest. You might be getting, as I'm showing you now, both sides and in one go, so to speak, right foot and left foot. Or you might divide them up if you like those sequences, if you like that middle work of the sun salutation. You might take that in a sequence. But letting this be about what your body needs, what you feel, what's nourishing to this body. Offering that rest and offering the modifications for comfort along the way, whatever your choices are. And everything's in the details. Whatever you're choosing to do, are you doing it the way you've always done it? Are you doing it in the way you've done it for weeks, for years? Or is there something you're exploring? Is there something you're playing with, something you're Noticing if you have some access to something in the experience of this and the sensations. Take your time with these wherever you are in the process, giving it another 10, maybe 20 breaths. Slowly, slowly, slowly as winter itself, bringing the body into an upward, upright, standing position, emerging through these sequences to your human shape, upright on 2 feet, if that's available to you today. And you might be seated, and that's also an option. You might choose to remain in a chair, always accommodating as needed. Arriving in the standing pose with that same organizational inquiry, that same curiosity as when you're lying down. Where are the joints in relation to each other? Can I stack my body so that the knees are over the ankles, the hips are over the knees? Keeps the feet parallel, slightly open, and that little bit of pressure from the outer edges, those little toes going down and lifting through the inside of the ankles there. Seeing what you can do in terms of your pelvic nuance, your position neutral as can be, finding the tailbone. Sometimes you might even think of yourself as having a great big tail, like a great big kangaroo tail, and a little bit of your weight just is resting on that tail back there. So giving yourself that position, lifting the shoulders up to the back and dropping the shoulder blades. So you're open through the shoulder or through the collarbones, through the front of the chest there. For your standing position, ready to go. Hands interlaced. So lift the hands while keeping the shoulders soft, keeping the elbows the ones that are lifting as the shoulders stay relaxed. And stacking that body, if you have it in you, to rise up on the toes. Make this into a balancing, into a lifting, into a stretching. A rising and lifting. Coming up. At least 3 times, maybe more. Finding the balance left to right, checking that you're equally dividing the responsibility there from the right to the left and the inside and the outside of the feet, finding that balance. However small the surface area, maybe the foot, maybe just the toes. And moving from the up and the down into a side bend from your wide standing position. I like to begin without using the arms, just finding the spine and what it feels like. And it might be nice. You might like to add an arm. So it might be just a little add. It might be a longer, bigger add. And if you are finding that, notice if there's any twist. Are you sort of looking down at the floor? Are you really facing that wall opposite? Is there a little bit of a back opening? No incorrect way to do this, but notice what your body's choosing to do. Where's the default? Where's the comfort, and what feels engaging? Where do you feel helpful to the body? Where do you feel like you're accessing and creating some extra room? Maybe in parts that have been compressed and parts that have been holding it down. You might try side bending with the arms behind. Have an extra. And we'll keep going with the wide legs here after you've warmed up your body. Let the heels pivot you so that you're facing a short distance. And before we pick up any tools, before we do any bow and arrows or other warrior activities, let's just go for this skiing in place. Great to warm up the body, shoulders and elbows. You might let the knees bob up and down as you do, and you're letting your whole body twist open, right? You're twisting it to the open side and then closing it down. So you're moving through the hips in this movement. The arms sort of naturally find their trajectory. If you want to make it complicated, if you want to explore some, what else can I do? Check it out. There's going to be a couple different ways that it feels good, and you'll do a few breaths and then you'll switch it around. Just switch it around. And find the same thing on the other side. You might notice differences between the hips, especially if you've got low back pain. Take a notice on what's happening with the hips. How are they the same? How are they different? And softness in the knees. And if you like some of the other postures that include this base, if you like a bow and arrow, the invitation is yours to play with. If you like the more static poses, holding some of that focus, that tension, that attention in a stretchy lengthening pose, this might be your moment. If you're a fan of some of these triangles and double angle pose, this is what we have with open legs and with the feet twisted to the side, and giving your upper body the things it needs, the things that are going to give it the stretch. Woo. From where the feet are planted. And whatever you do on one side, you'll track that in your mind. You'll do something similar on the other side. Got our instruments, our dynamic postures. We've got our static. Lengthening, strengthening, stretching. And you might be combining, putting things together. As you make this your own practice, as you make this a celebration of what your body needs in this physical way. What can you do? Where can you access with your movements, with your shapes, with your breath, with your intention? And then coming to a softness as you complete some of those reaches and stretches. Take your time to balance left and right. We've got our standing, we got our standing twist. We didn't do that. So the feet stay wide, maybe not as wide. The arms lengthen out. After all that warming up and stretching, find the space between the fingers, between the toes to make that into a wrap. And if you're dealing with shoulder or neck situations that have been ongoing, that have been unresponsive, you might divide out the movement of the head. As I'm demonstrating here, slowing it down so that the head is its own player in this sequence. That might be an idea. Letting the head do its own thing if that's something you need to focus on. But as with any other movements, making this about your needs, taking it in a way that gives you that nourishment that you are needing. Do you need something fast to get the blood flowing? Do you need something slow and quiet and calm? How can you be the best steward of this vessel of life that is your body? What can you do today? All these standing pieces and parts. Let's do a backward and a forward bend before we balance and bring it back to the breath. So as you complete the twists, finding a position of comfortable distance between the feet to really open the body. If you're standing, freestanding, you're in a backward bend. If that doesn't feel quite available, you might use the wall, kind of a wall cobra. Added stability, added support if needed, as needed. These backward bends, so important in our day-to-day lives, especially in the winter. I think especially when we're doing the winter body coats and cloaks and scarves and the wind blew and the shoulders came up. So the movements to reverse that wintering, to open into the full summer of the full inhale, the lungs supported, the collarbones lifted. And those backward bends, you might also, as we've been doing in past weeks, bring the hands together in that, so that the forward bend has that added piece, but you do what you need with the arms. The arms might just be a tiny forward bend. It might be just on the thighs. They might go all the way down. And they might be behind back there. And lifting. So your combination, backward and forward combination with a little extra attention to the back bend, a little extra support. See what's available. What does it feel like to just reach one arm back? Is there something that opens there in the shoulders and the shoulder blades? Finding the backward bends and the forward bends. And the Mercedes bends. Your body being a precious vehicle here, far more precious than any manufactured piece of equipment. So as you complete these bends, coming into the center, coming into, notice what you've done. You might be through, you might need a rest, and you might be up for a balance. So we're balancing with standing on one leg. The options are before us. Option one, lifting that leg, holding a knee in front, and option two, to swing it out. Bring it out to the side. So 1 and 2. And those then carry the options of arms. It could be the arms holding out for balance, studying the position, especially with that turnout. We've got this option of the angle, right angle pose, the wacky flamingo here. Noticing how open and tall the body is available to be as the full weight is supported on just one foot, one side. At least 2 rounds, and whatever variation of the balance is available to you today, being gentle with yourself, being honoring of the body's requests. Variation of the tree is to keep the foot that's lifted, supported on the standing leg. That might feel available to you. That might feel more comfortable than bringing it up and high. Couple options, couple variations there for your balancing comfort. At least 2 rounds, and the option of grabbing the foot in the back. Again, that makes an opening through the front. Another way to stretch the front of the hip, this forward folded part of our body so often in our working state. Bringing the openness and a little back bend into the hip. And that might need something to make this a stretch as much as it is a balance. All the ways these human bodies are able to stand, to be upon this earth, upon this great planet beneath us, with these tiny surfaces that are our feet, little funny flippers. And yet the strength of the muscles, the strength of the bones, the architecture that allows these movements, that allows these shapes, and that allows our own hands to reach to almost every part of our physical being. Sometimes there's a spot that's a little further away. So wrap up your balancing, see what else you need there to get at least 2 rounds, maybe more. I feel like January is always a great month to practice balance. Lots of opportunity up on the icy sidewalks to find that core strength that is really the key in our balance. And whatever you're doing on just one foot, just one leg, is going to be strengthening the whole limb and your core strength with it. So you're doing a beautiful investment in your well-being. And we've got all the time as we do. So if there's anything else your body might be needing, if there's anything you're feeling the longing, the tug, something that maybe we've done in past weeks and got shuffled out, or something you've done for yourself, some physical therapy that's on your list, this is the moment. Let's take 2 minutes for independent practice. As we each live our individual lives, these bodies take it. These bodies sleep however they sleep. Some people blame sleep for shoulder tensions and neck pain, and it could be. There might be some issues with pillows and the softness of mattresses. But I think so much of it is about nourishing, right? It's about coming around to the different parts and giving them this movement to nourish them, to bring the fresh blood flow, to bring the lymphatic fluid, to clean up the metabolic waste little by little, especially if there's parts that feel stuck or tense. Oh. Good stewards of these bodies. Thank you all for tending to your human flesh there. It's really one of the best investments, I think. It's priceless to tend to life in this way. And one of maybe the saddest things of our culture is how rest is undervalued, and how even sleep has been reduced to got to get it done in 8 hours because no one's paying me for it kind of thing. And I know many of us, especially in times of distress, struggle with sleep. It's a human thing we've done since the day we were born. Some of us slept for hours and hours and hours the first few days and weeks here upon this earth to get our bearings straight. And so I welcome you to a restful portion of our time together. Thank you for watching. Please like the video and leave a comment about your experience. And while you're here, please subscribe to my channel and opt in for notifications to catch the next class I upload. And then head over to olgachwa.com to join in a live event or to work one-on-one with me. I'm here to help.